So, Public Knuisance is a movement. It's a brand. It's a industry opinion column, I would say. And what we talk about is underground music and the culture behind the purpose of the underground music scene and why there's a difference between underground and mainstream in the first place. Those are questions that I want to know the answer to, and I don't think I can do that without exploring the industry and the people who play in it a little bit deeper. I've always had a passion for investigation and figuring out why things are the way they are. Not necessarily because I want to change them, but because I want to know if they were created with enough thought behind them. Intention and consciousness and compassion, consideration, I guess, are the biggest morals, values that I think should exist in a community or culture in general. And I think music has always been such a influential tool to convey a message to a large group of people that might not be able to be said in words or as a directed message to somebody. So the purpose of me wanting to talk to all of the people who make the music scene what it is to find out why it's even here in the first place. I guess I could talk a little bit about where my involvement in the underground music scene started. I started going to raves back in 2012. Was my first, I would say, rave. I wouldn't consider it a rave now, but it was a global dance festival at Red Rocks, and Excision was headlining. We saw Dylan Francis play at like 2:00 in the afternoon. None of us knew who he was when we bought our tickets to Global Dance, so we had to look him up. And we binged his music for months before we went, and we got to Red Rocks at like noon and waited and got in there, and that was one of my worst times, not worst times. That was one of my hardest push throughs at a festival or event that I've ever had to go through. But that was my first introduction into the culture behind dance music. My actual first dance music show, electronic music show, was Pretty Lights in Lincoln, Nebraska, in 2010 or 2011, one of those two. But I had no idea what I was going to. My friends had an extra ticket, and I went to the Pershing Auditorium in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I saw Pretty Lights, and it was the first time I'd ever seen lasers. And I was hooked. But I didn't understand that there was a culture behind it. I just knew that was something pretty that I liked to watch, and it was fun to go to. And then when I met my friends that I went to Global Dance Festival with is when I started really listening to the music. And the music and the culture are absolutely connected, but only if you go. You know, if somebody hears electronic music on the radio, there's a small chance that they might feel it. You know, it might hook them. But where you really get the point of electronic music is when you go to an event, when you go experience the connectedness between the crowd and the artist and the energy and how much that energy can change and come together in a room of people that are listening to the same sounds and frequencies. There's a quote from the Wu-Tang Clan, the Wu-Tang Bible, and it says, "The dumb are distracted by the drum." And it's a it's a pointed comment towards rap and in specific, that the drum is what hooks the people, the beat. The beat is what makes people start listening to the music. The dumb are distracted by the drum because you could be walking in a straight line and hear a drum and then just walk towards it without thinking about it. That's the dumb part behind it. But rap is about the lyrics. Rap is about the message. Rap is about the verbal expression of what the artist is trying to say. And that's where you start thinking and start analyzing and start connecting to the message. With rap is through the lyrics, spoken word. So if the dumb are distracted by the drum, and that is what hooks people to rap, I would say that the dumb are also distracted by the drum with electronic music, but there's no lyrics to get you connected to it. There's nothing that isn't physical that you can experience that will make you fall in love with it, other than going to an event. You have to go to it. You have to experience it. It has to be an in-person, visceral interaction with the culture. And if you know, you know. And I found out about that at Global Dance Festival at Red Rocks in 2012. From there, I don't think I ever stopped listening to electronic music. I started in dubstep. I'm a dubstep alumni, I would say. It's what got me in it. It's what I loved for so long. I still love bass music. Don't get me wrong. But I've also graduated and really kind of dove into the technicalities and the intricacies of dance music. There's a lot that goes into making a beat, no matter what genre your beat is in, and genres are also something I want to talk about. I understand the purpose of defining genres, but I also think that it is a scapegoat for a lot of people to talk about, make what they're talking about seem a little bit more important than what you're talking about, if you're putting the weight on genre. But either way, the intricacies of each genre vary, and I think dubstep was a great place for me to start. But where I'm at right now is I'm in level techno. And that's kind of where Public Kniusance is going to start exploring the underground scene. Public Kniusance started in Denver, and it started as a recognition that there is something that needs to be talked about. It started from a group of friends who were in a kitchen at 5 a.m. and decided that there had to be more people that wanted to do exactly what we're doing. And so we decided to start throwing parties. And thankfully, my friends were the ones who carried that mission through. The first discussion of having an afters conglomerate was between myself and a handful of my other friends. And after we had that conversation, I moved away from Denver, and they ran with it, and they fucking killed it. They started literally from nothing, and now they have 14,000 followers on Instagram. They've thrown over, I want to say, 30 to 40 events, and they have been absolutely fucking incredible. I'm so proud of them. The specific friends that I'm talking about are the homies at Novation. They are a Denver after-hours underground drum and bass and techno conglomerate. They throw events that are immersive, raw, and definitely the vision of its creator. So that's where my introduction to the after hours community started. And I had a little bit of dabble in the community through the years that I wasn't in Denver, but when I came back in November of 2024, I was bored one night and my friend invited me to one of their afters parties, and I went and I never left. I started going to every single event that they threw. I think everybody who has been involved in the after hours underground event world can attest to the fact that you really just kind of show up and help with loadout. And if you're willing to carry a bunch of heavy speakers at 5:30 a.m., you can probably hang out with us. And that's what I've grown to know to be true for all of the groups that throw these events. All of the lifeblood behind the underground is the companies that throw the events. It is the promoters. It is the DJs. It is the owners of the spaces that we use to throw these parties, which is the backbone. And now that backbone has kind of crumbled and people are throwing parties in ditches in Denver. So that's something else we're going to talk about.